Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and today we will be going over the quarterback and the wide receiver rankings. This is for the second time for me. I just spent an hour recording this video and tomorrow's video, and somehow, for some reason, this screen was frozen, so I was just talking about stuff that you weren't able to see. So the big thing is the risers and the fallers in this video. I will go over my top 5 tiers for both the quarterbacks and the wide receivers in this video, and you can find my complete rankings, because these are not my full rankings, up on the website at www.theFFForge.com. There's a link down in the description, and just below me you can also see the website name, domain. So let's kick this off with the first tiers. I'll be right back with those loaded up. And in my first tier, we have Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, separating themselves from the rest of the field just because I think they have the most likely chances to be our top 3 quarterbacks in whatever order you wish, but not too far behind them. We do have Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Joe Burrow. I think all 3 of them have the potential, probably with a little bit of luck, to also be, they could still be quarterback number 1s on the season. I think it's possible, whereas that's not going to be true once we get to the next tier of guys. So that's what separates them from my next tier. And with that, we have my third tier, starting off with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback number 7, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and Anthony Richardson making it up into this tier as my QB, I want to say 13, 10, 11, 12, 13. With him, it's just the upside potential of, if especially for leagues where you're not getting 6 points for quarterbacks passing touchdowns, I will keep him in this tier. If passing touchdowns are worth 6 points in your league, then I think you could push him back into this coming tier. But otherwise, he has a lot of upside, and so that's where I got him up into this tier. And we'll cover a couple of other things. There are some changes in this tier outside of Anthony Richardson that we'll get to with my risers and fallers portion. Let's get to my fourth tier, which starts off at quarterback 14 with Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers at 15, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and Kirk Cousins. So I have moved Aaron Rodgers up ahead of Jared Goff. That's been a very tight battle all offseason for me. But at the end of the day, I'll take the Hall of Fame quarterback on an offense that I really do think is going to be quite good. So not a knock on my thoughts on Jared Goff and the Detroit offense, just, better. And for my final tier for this video, with Matt Stafford, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, and Derek Carr all making it in here as guys who I'm definitely willing to draft in a draft. So let's start off with my risers. This is over roughly like the past month, and Anthony Richardson, we talked about that at quarterback 13, but then significant importance, I guess, would be that Kirk Cousins did jump up a tier for me. I didn't rank him any higher, but I moved him into the tier with the rest of these guys. I do have a certain level of confidence there that I figured was a little bit above these guys, so I put him in there. Then Derek Carr not only moved up a tier, but he also moved up 2 spots for me to quarterback 22. It's been a nice preseason for them, and I feel comfortable with him to a certain extent. I don't think he'll be a league winner by any means, but I do feel comfortable. Then Kenny Pickett moved up to quarterback 23 for me. Sam Howell moved up to quarterback 24 for me. These are guys who the projections did like them a fair bit. I needed to see something, I guess, in order to just boost them up a little bit in my rankings compared to where they had been. And Ryan Tannehill getting DeAndre Hopkins on that team gave me a little bit more confidence in life just being a little bit easier for him, and maybe him returning to some of his numbers of a couple of years ago and prior. We have the fallers, and the first faller is going to be Deshaun Watson, moved back 2 spots behind Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa for me. And the thing was that I was giving Deshaun Watson the benefit of the doubt, literally in my projections, that he would improve compared to last season, and I wasn't giving that same benefit to some other guys. And so I figured when all things are even, if I give the same benefit of the doubt to Justin Herbert, yeah, I had to put him up higher. And then I love the upside of Tua Tagovailoa, and that jiu-jitsu training of his does seem to have paid off to some extent. So at the end of the day, felt like the upside of him just a little bit more. That's how that worked out. Then Bryce Young moved down a tier for me. He is now my quarterback 25. I think I had him all the way up at quarterback 21 or quarterback 22 previously, but yeah, just moved down a little bit. Didn't instill any great amount of confidence, and with Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Ryan Tannehill all moving up a little bit, I couldn't justify keeping him up there with them. Then Jimmy G moved back to quarterback 27, and this is going to be the same thing as Bryce Young. It's less so that I moved him down as that others moved up and they didn't. Then Kyler Murray moved down a tier and several spots, had been my quarterback 23, moved him down to quarterback 28. There was still some hope that he might be able to return early season or even week one. That's, a pipe dream, I guess, would have been to week one. And so I had to reflect the fact that that's not going to happen in my rankings, and so moved him back. And then C.J. Stroud, it hasn't been a very impressive preseason. Nothing that gets me too excited compared to some other guys who have shown us some stuff. So he just kind of slid back as well. Let's move on to my wide receiver rankings. Starting off with my first two tiers here for the wide receivers. Haven't been, I don't think, any changes, maybe all season long here. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill in as my tier 1 guys. And very closely behind them, we have Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, and Stephon Diggs in my second tier. In this next tier, things will start to get a little bit more interesting. Do see a change. I believe one change here coming up. And so here is my third tier in at wide receiver, number 6. We have A.J. Brown, followed by CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, that is the change, and Chris Olave. So I moved Garrett Wilson up the tier, and then I ended up moving him up ahead of Chris Olave, and it just came down to the quarterback for me. Which quarterback do I think has the better chance of getting this guy the ball more times in the end zone? And that's basically what it came down to as a tiebreaker, and I went with the Hall of Fame quarterback there. In my next tier, we're starting to see some more changes occurring. Amari Cooper fell a couple of spots for me from my wide receiver 12 down to my wide receiver, I assume, 14 here, and Deebo Samuel has snuck his way into a new tier. At my wide receiver 13, we have T. Higgins, 13, 14, 15. So Amari Cooper down to wide receiver 16? That would be the case. 16, I can count. Then Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, and Deebo Samuel over here. I will cover more of these changes as I go through my risers and fallers, but let's get this last tier up on the board. This is a biggie. And this tier begins with DeAndre Hopkins, followed by Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Jahan Dotson, and Jerry Jeudy. So going over we'll start with the fallers here. I already covered Amari Cooper fell. I finally dropped him out of my top 12 in my rankings, as you saw. And, I said in my very first video that would happen eventually, and it finally did recently. Then Marquise Brown is a big faller for me. Part of what I liked about him was what we saw from Colt McCoy and him last season when Kyler was out. It was a solid flow of targets. Now he'll probably have a later round rookie quarterback throwing to him for at least 4 weeks this season. It's a risky proposition for a player that we were banking on a high floor from, and now the hopes for a ceiling are gone, and that floor is a shaken. So Marquise Brown, no longer thinking that he's some sort of great value or has that high-end potential. He really took a tumble in my rankings. Jackson Smith-Njigba was a bit of a faller. He was a recent riser before that. He did not fall as far as he had risen, but with that injury, just knocked him down a little bit. Then Treylon Burks also was a faller, and that had to do with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins on that team. Wan'Dale Robinson for the New York Giants. I'm unsure that if I had bad intel earlier on this offseason or what, but I thought that he would be back with the team earlier than he has been, just finally getting back with the team. So as a result, Paris Campbell has been a riser as of late. And John Mechie, the third, hasn't done much in this preseason to instill confidence, and Our Lads is now projecting that Noah Brown will be the slot wide receiver come week 1 for the team, and I think that Noah Brown is a talented veteran wide receiver who it makes sense you might want to have out there for the rookie to just have somebody to rely on, that veteran-like presence. So I can't argue against that projection. I hope and think that John Mechie will eventually win out that spot, but just not coming on as quickly as we had hoped this preseason from all appearances from the evidence that we have. Kadarius Toney was a riser before now becoming a faller again, and it really just comes down to that injury risk already showing itself early on this offseason. With the injury history on top of the fact that he's coming into this season not fully healthy, it concerns me too much, and it's just such a loaded wide receiver core that you add that concern on top of everything. I'm a little bit shy to pull the trigger, but I do understand the upside. Cedric Tillman, another guy who I just didn't see enough from this offseason. He didn't win out the job from DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or anything like that. Thought he might have the ability to do that. It might be possible. So he was just a sleeper guy. I never had him ranked too high. Then for the risers for the wide receiver position, we saw Garrett Wilson rose, I believe, a couple of spots in my rankings over time. Deebo Samuel, talked about that. Then DeAndre Hopkins rose in my rankings a little bit. Jahan Dotson with the Terry McLaurin turf toe injury was just a little nudge, so I had Jahan Dotson ranked back. I thought I had that written down a little ways. There was just a group of guys where he was very close to being ahead of any one of those guys, so he ended up taking quite the big jump, bigger than Terry McLaurin's fall in my rankings. And that just has to do with now thinking that, if Terry McLaurin's injury, it could hamper him season long even. And it just gave that little more bit of confidence to thinking that Jahan Dotson could reach the best case scenario for him compared to how I felt about it before with Terry McLaurin at full health. Then Rashad Bateman has been a riser. Just he appears that he'll be healthy coming into week 1, which is a great thing. I like the talent. Think he should be the wide receiver 1 out of that group if all works out well. So been a bit of a riser. I actually have fallen him back a couple of spots recently, but still an overall riser over the past month. Elijah Moore, riser. I just thought about the situation more, and it's been a good preseason, more so even training camp for him. So a lot of good buzz coming around that one. Romeo Doubs has been a consistent riser all offseason. It always felt like I had him too low, and I've finally gotten him to a spot where I think he's well ranked. Then Darius Slayton, very recent riser, come to the reality of the shiny new toys in New York won't be coming out of the garage quite yet, and so we'll trust the guy who Danny Dimes, when they were both healthy, when Darius Slayton was healthy last year, really did like him as a target quite a bit, and he was definitely fantasy relevant. So I think he's a good late round target to have, and he goes pretty much undrafted. Then Rashee Rice, I'm basically back to where I had him at the start of this offseason at wide receiver 61, so he had tumbled a little ways. I've got him back up. The target share during this preseason has been very promising for him, and not too far behind him is Justin Ross. I think if there's one guy who has the highest ceiling, who could give us like some Tyreek Hill type numbers, not in the same way, but could demand a target share just based on their talent, it's Justin Ross in that wide receiver room. But he's a sleeper. He's not going to start the season off like that at all. Then DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he was just kind of, I thought maybe Cedric Tillman might win that job. I was hating on him, and it looks like he's going to hold on to his job, and he did pretty good fantasy-wise last year. So he's definitely a guy who I had to represent in my rankings appropriately, where I had him quite low previously. And then Trey Palmer, is going to get an opportunity, it appears, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rookie wide receiver. There are reasons to like him, and so with the injury to, I can't even remember his name right now, he seems to be the guy who's going to be getting on the field as the wide receiver 3 there. So yeah, that is it for the wide receivers and the quarterbacks. Thank you very, very much. Once again, complete rankings up on the website, www.theFFWatch.com. You can also get my draft sheet up on the website, and that will be updated on Thursday. So as of Friday morning, you can be rest confident that that is updated via the most recent average draft position and my most recent rankings averaged together in order to make that draft board. And yeah, that's it. So thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe if you're still here. Bye-bye.